Gaza has melted down over the weekend. On the line with us is Ari Wolfeiler. He's the development director with Jewish Voice for Peace, a Jewish Voice, F-O-R-P-E-A-C-E, jewishvoiceforpeace.org is their website. Ari, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. And first of all, could you, for many of our viewers or listeners who are unfamiliar with jewishvoiceforpeace.org, how do you describe yourself and your organization?
We're a national Jewish organization who believes that the answer to the ongoing violence in Israel and Palestine, and we're of course seeing right now an incredible escalation of that violence, actually has a root cause, and that root cause is the valuing of Israeli lives over Palestinian rights. So we don't believe that the Israeli government and its policies of occupation stand for us, represent our values, and we understand that as Jewish Americans, we have a real opportunity and even an obligation to try to change U.S. policy, which is extremely one-sided, to say the least, in its military, its diplomatic, and its economic support for Israel.
We've had the folks from J Street on a number of times, and they come right out and say, we are an openly and aggressively pro-Israel group. We just think that Israel's rather right-wing and militaristic practices are not in the best interest of the country, and so we're speaking out for what we think is the best interest of the country. Would you be on board with that?
You know, we're really a values-based organization, so we don't start from saying we're for this group of people or we're for that group of people or this solution or that solution. What we say and the way we work is we're for human rights, we're for equality, we're for justice, we're for adherence to international law. Right, we're for these core values that certainly in the United States we all can agree that we at least aspire to,
and that are found in Judaism.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that are also, you know, part of the woof and weave of Judaic history.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Pardon my interrupting you.
And I think it's really important to us to not put one people first or one solution first and then have the values follow from that. Again, I think we believe that when we start from our commitment to equality and justice, we'll be able to figure out a solution that actually meets the inalienable rights of everybody involved.
Yeah. I have to say, you've got over at jewishvoiceforpeace.org, you've got a Israel-Palestine 101 sort of Q&A piece that, or you know, bullets and fill in the, you know, more detailed piece that I thought was just a really, really great history. You've got a really fine website there. So bring us up to date on what's going on right now with Israel and Gaza. What's the latest?
Yeah, well, I really, first of all, I would refer people to that 101 because I think one of the things that's going on right now is that this is an escalation of a situation that has really clear context, right? And that context is the Israeli occupation, and the ongoing ways in which the Israeli society is set up, such as discrimination against Palestinians, the expropriation of Palestinian land, is built into the very fabric of this state. So what we're seeing this summer began with the kidnapping of 3 Israeli settlers back in June. The Israeli government intentionally withheld information that they knew that those 3 children were dead, and conducted an 18-day raid throughout the West Bank, which they really used as an opportunity to try to weaken Hamas, to try to weaken the PA, the Palestinian Authority, and to reassert its control over Gaza and the West Bank. What we've seen more recently in the last 2 weeks is Israel turning its attention to Gaza through a overwhelmingly intense aerial and now ground invasion. We've seen the Israeli army up to today, the latest figures are up to a little over 500 Palestinians have been killed. Tens of thousands of homes have been destroyed. Thousands are wounded. It's an unbelievably intense humanitarian crisis. And it is as terrible as it is also one-sided. So it's a real emergency that also, sadly, we've seen before. This is the same type of behavior we've seen from the Israeli state in 2012, in 2008, in 2006. So it's a pattern, and we need to understand that it's not simply a random explosion of violence. It's actually pretty clearly a state policy.
Right. What are there any specific policies that your organization, jewishvoiceforpeace.org, is calling for, Ari?
Yeah, we're calling for a removal of U.S. aid to Israel if it continues to use that aid to pursue these policies. So that includes direct military aid. Israel receives more aid from the United States than any other country in the world, to the tune of $3 billion a year. It includes diplomatic aid. The United States consistently protects Israeli human rights violations at the United Nations and other international bodies. And I think it also includes the type of aid that comes from the way that there's a cultural belief in the United States, and particularly in Jewish American communities, that it's Israel right or wrong. And I think in many ways, that's actually the most important policy we need to change. We really need to stand up and stand up, especially as Jews, and confront the fact that in effect, our society treats Jewish lives as more valuable than Palestinian lives. And I think what we need to actually recognize is that all lives are equally precious, that all lives matter, that it doesn't matter if it's the lives of people who are like us or not like us. And it's actually that social change that we need to push for, to be able to hold the governments and the corporations that are driving this type of violence accountable.
Yeah, that has often seemed to me like if we were either our foreign aid dollars, either our $3 billion a year to Israel are consequential or they're not, and if they're not, then we don't have much leverage. But if they are, then if we were to say, when you guys have this thing worked out, come back and talk to us. Until then, we're just going to apply this money to building schools in the United States. Seems to me like that might have some very, very positive impact. How do you deal with Shelley Adelson, for example, says he's going to spend $1 million a day, or at least there's speculation that he's going to spend $1 million a day, given to largely pro-Israel Republican candidates. Israel's his number one topic. In fact, one of the Republican candidates made some sort of a faux pas, and it was Chris Christie, and had to go on an apology tour to apologize to Shelley Adelson. So we have billionaires in the United States pushing a very narrow perspective Israeli agenda, or agenda about Israel, and then you have the influence of groups like AIPAC and whatnot. How do you think we break through that? We have about a minute left.
I think what I believe is that that's actually already changing. I think if you look at any reputable studies of the Jewish community in the United States, you can see that there's a huge and growing divide between younger Jews and older Jews. And so I think that certainly we can't just ask Shelley Adelson to stop nicely. But I think if you do look at what younger Jews are doing, the organizing happening on campus in terms of opening up Jewish institutions, in terms of campaigns for divestment from corporations that profit off the occupation, in terms of Jews who have different opinions about Israel than the current status quo, asserting ourselves as legitimate leaders in our community, there is really a sea change happening. And I think that it's very similar to, I think, what we've seen with other movements, where over time there's a massive generational change that makes equality possible, right? So I think that there are billionaires and there are the people. And I think that we're doing a great job organizing from that level for real change.
Well, you are. And let me encourage people to check out your website, Jewish Voice for Peace, FOR Peace.org is the website. And Ari Wolfweiler, the development director with Jewish Voice for Peace, thanks so much for dropping by and being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And keep up the great work. We'll be back.